Hey there guys, welcome to review number 2 for test number 2. Be sure you attempt the review on your own before looking at the answers. If you get something wrong, rewind and listen to the explanation. Let's get started. Alright, so here's number 1. We need to distribute this negative 9 to this w. So it becomes negative 9w. And then negative 9 times 9 is negative 81. Then we will distribute 5 times 15, which makes it 75. And then 5 times this negative w, which makes it negative 5w. Alright, so now we can begin the solving. So I will draw my line. We got the left side, we got the right side. I've been teaching you to move the smallest variable. So the smallest variable in this situation is negative 9. So I will add 9w because negative 9 plus 9 is 0. Then I'll add this 9w to the 5w. And then you bring everybody down. Negative 81 equals 75 plus 4w. Since I moved my variable to the right, I will be moving this constant to the left side. To get rid of it, I will subtract 75 because 75 minus 75 is 0. I will put this on the left side as well. Negative 81 minus 75 turns out to be negative 156. So now I'll bring my 4w. Our last step, as always, is to divide by 4. So our answer for this problem is w equals negative 39. All right, let's go to number 2. What is the solution to? Again, all this is saying, it's telling you to solve. All right, that's all it means. All right, so before we continue, you need to know that there is a negative sign here, but there's no number. You need to remember that that number that's there is a 1. So we'll be multiplying negative 1 times 8k, which is negative 8k. We'll be multiplying negative 1 times 10, which is negative 10. Now we will distribute on the right side. 7 times 18 gives us 126. 7 times negative k is 7k. So now that we're done distributing, we can begin solving. All right, I've taught you that you move the smallest variable. This is the smallest variable. So to move him, we will add 8k because that is the inverse. Negative 8 plus 8 is 0. I will add this to the other side. Okay, and that will give me positive 1k. And then I bring everything else down. All right. Since I moved my variable to the right, that means I need to move this constant to the left. To do so, I will subtract because 126 minus 126 is 0. Now to do that on the left side as well. So I'm left with 1k equals negative 136. And this is your answer. Let's go to number 3. What value of h makes the equation below true? Again, this is another way to say to solve. They love asking you this question in different manners. So we'll look at the problem. That side is good to go. This side we need to distribute. So let's distribute. We'll distribute 4 times 15, which gives us 60h. 4 times 7, which is 28. And then we bring down the left side. Again, we look for the smallest variable to move. Turns out it's 56. So I will subtract 56h because 56 minus 56 is 0. Okay, 60 minus 56 turns out to be 4h. So now we bring everybody else back down. Okay. Since I moved my variable to the right, I will be moving my constant to the left. This is a positive 28, So that means I will be subtracting 28 because 28 minus 28 is 0. So I do that to the other side, and we're left with 4h equals 60. And our last step, as always, is to divide. So we divide by 4, and h is 15. Okay. All right, number 4. So this one has decimals, so make sure you have used your calculator. It does not change the procedure. We will distribute 2.25 times 2. This will give you 4.5y. 225 times negative 8 turns out to be 18. So now this becomes a very basic two-step equation. I will add 18 to both sides. And the reason I'm adding is because negative 18 plus 18 is 0. Bring down the rest of your information. And on the right side, we end up with 24.75. And then our last step is to divide both sides by 4.5. Our answer for this problem is 5.5. Problem number 5. This one's very multi-step. Okay, so let's recognize our left side and our right side. This 10x, nothing will happen with that 10x. So I'm just going to bring him down. I'm going to put 10x, okay? Now this 3 is in front of this parentheses, so hopefully you have learned that you distribute. 3 times 8 is 24x. 3 times this other 8 is just regular 24. Now let's continue with our left side. If you notice, we got some like terms. Negative 10x plus 24x. This will give us 14x. Okay, notice I did not do the opposite. I just did it in the calculator, okay? Negative 10 plus 24. All right, bring down your constant. All right, so now we're done with our left side. Let's go to the right side. On the right side, we must distribute this negative 6 to this x. It will give us negative 6x. Then negative 6 times this negative 4, which gives us a positive 24. All right, let's keep going. Again, I've been teaching you to move the smallest variable. This time, the smallest variable is on the right side. This negative 6 is smaller than 14. So I will be adding 6x. And the reason that I add 6x is because negative 6 plus 6 is 0. Okay, so then 14 plus 6 is 20x. And I bring down this 24 and I bring down the other 24. All right, now since my variable is on the left, I got to move this constant to the right. So I will subtract because 24 minus 24 is 0. Uh-oh, it turns out that the right side will also be 0. But that's not the end of our problem. So again, the last step is always to divide. Remember how I keep telling you? So we divide both sides by 20. 0 divided by 20, well, in this case, the answer is 0. All right, let's go on to number 6. Number 6 is very similar to number 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw our line. We got the left side and the right side. This negative 4x, nothing will happen to it yet, so we just bring it straight down. So we're going to distribute this 2 times this 5x, so we get 10x. We're going to distribute this 2 times this negative 6, which is negative 12. All right, before we continue, you need to realize that we got some like terms here, and we need to put them together. In your head or in the calculator, type in negative 4 plus 10. Negative 4 plus 10 is just 6. And we bring it down. Again, I did not do the opposite to combine them. All right, now let's go to our right side. Let's distribute. We're going to get negative 3x, and then negative 3 times 13 is negative 39. So now we can begin our solving. The smallest variable is on the right side. So I will be adding because negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So I add 3 to both sides. 6 plus 3 is 9x. Bring down your 12, and this equals negative 39. Our constant's on the right, so we'll continue to move the constants to the right. So the inverse of negative 12 is to add 12. And again, this equals 0. So 9x equals negative 39 plus 12 is negative 27. Our last step is to divide both by 9. So x equals negative 3. All right, number 7. Number 7 is a little bit different. As you can see, we have two variables. I have an x and a y. Remember, it's solving for y. So when you are solving for y, you want your answer to look like y equals and then the rest. So this means we need to get rid of the 3x and we need to get rid of the 4. This 3x is adding, so the inverse to get rid of it is to subtract, because 3 minus 3 is what? 0. All right, now I cannot put it under this 20. Not like terms, okay? Not like terms. So I have shown you to put it off to the side because we cannot subtract those, okay? All right, then this 4, what is this 4 doing to the y? Well, hopefully you can recognize that it's multiplying, right? So the inverse of that is to divide by 4. 4 divided by 4 gives us 1. So now we're left with y. We got to divide 20 by 4. So 20 divided by 4 is 5. And then we got to divide this 3 by 4 as well, not 5. Can you divide 3 by 4? The answer is no. So leave it alone, okay? Leave your answers in fractions. Leave answers in fractions if they cannot divide. Okay? All right. Number 8. Number 8, it's very similar to number 7. The only difference is, instead of x's and y's, I got m's and g's. Again, to solve for m means that you only end up with the letter m on the left-hand side. Okay? So, all right, let's draw our line. So, to get m isolated, I need to get rid of this 5g and this 7. So, to get rid of 5g, this 5g is adding, so the inverse is to subtract 5g, because 5g minus 5g is 0. And again, I will write it on the side because they are not like terms. All right, next up is this 7m. All right, to get rid of the 7, you need to recognize that this is multiplying. So the inverse of that is to divide each term by 7. So we divide each term by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. So now we're left with m. 28 divided by 7 is 4. 5 is not divisible by 7, so we'll leave it as a fraction. Okay, let's go on to number 9. Number 9 says solve for y. So same principles, same ideas. Notice for x is on the other side, which is fine. The goal is to end up with y by itself. So this means I need to get rid of this 8 and I need to get rid of this 32. So let's start with getting rid of the 32 first. If I add 32, to get rid of it, I will need to subtract, because 32 minus 32 is 0. I cannot subtract 32 from 4x, not like terms, so I leave it as is. This 8 is multiplying the y. So since the inverse of multiplication is to divide, so we'll divide each term by 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1. So now I'm just left with my y. Now 4 doesn't divide by 8, but this fraction can reduce. This fraction is both divisible by 4, top and bottom, right? So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So I'm left with 1/2 x. 32 divided by 8 is 4. And don't forget that negative sign. And we have solved for y. All right, let's keep going. Number 10, and you're like, oh no, it's a bunch of letters. No fear, let's keep going. All right, since we want k to be by itself, okay, notice that the c is on this side. We usually prefer it that it's on this side. So let's go like that. All right, so just as before, I want k by itself. So that means I need to get rid of p and I need to get rid of h. To get rid of p, this is a plus p, so the inverse would be to subtract. So p minus p is 0. I cannot subtract p from c, so I leave it alone. Okay. My next step is, what is this h doing to this k? So hopefully you said it is multiplying. So the inverse of multiplying is to divide each term by h. All right, so h divided by h is 1. I cannot divide h and c. I cannot divide p or h. So I leave my answer as such. I can write it as two separate fractions, or since they both have the same denominator, I can write it as c minus p over h. So there's two ways to write it. Okay? All right, let's keep going. All right, number 11 is to determine the range. Determine if the representation shows y as a function of x. Explain why or why not. Then determine the domain and range of each representation. All right, so to determine if it shows y as a function of x, we'll be looking at our x values. And all our x values in this situation are all different. So the answer here is yes, it is a function. The reason that it is a function is that because x values don't repeat. All right, now let's list our domain. I've already underlined are all x values. When you write the domain, you do need to write it in order from least to greatest. So we will put a curly bracket, -9, -3, 0, and 1. Again, I wrote the first numbers in least to greatest order. All right, our range is our y values, okay? So that's these guys, 2, 6, -2, and 6. All right, so we will also put those in numerical order from least to greatest. We'll begin with -2, then +2, and then a +6. You need to know, do not repeat the numbers. Okay, let's keep going. Number 12 is the same as before. So let's look at our x values, -1, 4, -7, and -1. As you can see, our x values repeat. So this is not a function. And the reason is because x values repeat. All right, now let's list our domain. Our domain are those numbers I underline. So I need to put them in order from least to greatest. So it'll be -7, -1, and I only write it one time, and then 4. So that will be our domain. Our range will be our y values. Let me circle those for you. 0, 3, -3, and -8. We'll start in order from least to greatest. So it'll be -8, -3, 0, and 3. That will be the range in order from least to greatest. All right, let's go to number 13. On number 13, we have a graph. Okay, when you have a graph, you must use the vertical line test. So you will be drawing a vertical line through the graphs. So as you can see, this yellow line hits 2 points, this one and this one. So as you can see, this is not a function. Not a function because it fails the vertical line test. Touches 2 points. All right. Okay, so now let's write our domain. The domain is the x values of each of these points. The x value of this point is -3, and it's the same for that one. So my first number is -3. These points are on -2, both of them, so I write -2. My next point is -1, and then my last point is going to be 0. Okay, and again, domain is your x values, so that's why I was looking at the x-axis. All right, so now let's look at our range. Our range is your y values. So we'll be looking at this point, and the y value of that point is -3. The y value of that point is -2. The y value of this point is -1. The y value of that point is 0. The y value of that one is 1. Our next one is 2, 3, and then 4. So our range had a little longer list. Okay. All right, let's move on. Well, actually, this will be the end of part 1. There'll be a second video for part 2. Okay. Bye.